What's going on, guys? I'm back with another Bulls discussion video, and today's video is going to be about who should the Bulls keep for their center of the future, and that's either Wendell Jr. or Daniel Gafford. But before we get into that video, make sure you hit that like button. Also, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Let's get into this big topic of debate in Bulls Nation. Now that Karnisovas is in office, a lot of people are starting to speculate on who's going to stay, who's going to go, who's untouchable, who's expendable. And this has brought up the discussion of, is Wendell Jr. going to stay on this team, or is he going to be replaced by Daniel Gafford? And who should the Bulls choose between those two? And what I've been seeing a lot recently, especially in Bulls Nation, is that a lot of people are split down the middle, and the people that are supporting Gafford, they're bringing up some points that to me, it just doesn't make any sense. And I want to talk about a couple things people are bringing up and show that their arguments that support Gafford and negate Wendell, I'm going to show that those arguments are actually not valid arguments. So, for example, the first thing I always keep hearing is that Wendell Jr. is completely injury prone. And yes, that is very true. Wendell Jr. is injury prone. But then they go on to say Daniel Gafford isn't as injury prone as Wendell. Now, if you're going to just look at the rookie season for both of them, then obviously, yes, you would say that Daniel Gafford had less injuries in one season than Wendell. However, what people don't understand is that Daniel Gafford also had a significant injury this season. In the middle of January, Daniel Gafford had a sprained thumb, and that kept him out for a significant amount of time. And he came back in one game in the middle of February, but then he got re-injured, so then he didn't return until after the All-Star break. Wendell went out at the beginning of January and also did not return until after the All-Star break. But if you look at the amount of games both guys played this season, Wendell only played 43 games, but Daniel Gafford also only played 43 games. So to say that Wendell Jr. is more injury prone than Daniel Gafford, and say that Daniel Gafford, we should keep him because he's less injury prone, there's two issues with that argument. One, they both play the same amount of games this season. And number two, Daniel Gafford, it isn't like he didn't have an injury. He had a significant injury this season, and we don't know if he's going to be injury prone because it's only his rookie season. So he could have the same amount of injuries as Wendell down the line, but we don't know that yet because we've only seen one season. So to say Wendell should not be kept because of his injuries, invalid argument. Now, other thing he keeps saying is that Wendell Jr. commits way too many fouls. He is always called for so many fouls in the game. And that is true. Wendell Jr. is called for a lot of fouls. But if you're looking at the games that he fouled out, for example, he fouled out in 5 games. He had 6 games where he committed 5 fouls. And it's like, that's not something that you want to see, right? But then if we're going to look at Gafford, for example, Gafford fouled out in 4 games. He also had 5 games where he had 4 games where he committed 5 fouls. But I want to show, though, is that in Daniel Gafford's 4 games where he fouled out, 3 of those games he came off the bench. And in those 3 games that he came off the bench, he played 16 minutes or less. So to say that Daniel Gafford doesn't commit as many fouls as Wendell Jr. is also an invalid argument. As you can see right here, Daniel Gafford commits a lot of fouls. So you cannot use Wendell Jr. commits way too many more fouls and Daniel Gafford doesn't commit as many fouls argument, because in less minutes we've seen that Daniel Gafford can foul out of a game pretty quickly. So those two arguments are invalid. Now the other argument I'm always hearing is that Daniel Gafford hustles more and he plays better defense. And that's also an invalid argument in my opinion, because Daniel Gafford, he plays at 110%. And in my opinion, I want a guy that plays at 110% coming off my bench, because he's strictly just an energy guy. And Daniel Gafford, I think, can have a significant role off the bench. Now, the thing is, though, when people talk about hustle, I do think that Daniel Gafford hustles more than Wendell Jr. However, what people don't mention is that Wendell Jr. was very effective in being the first big man down the floor on a fast break opportunity. What people don't see is that Jim Boylan is stupid and he doesn't value the big man. So he would rather have a 3-point shot be taken instead of have Wendell Jr. have a guy posted 2 feet away from the basket and have him take the layup. So people don't see it because Carter Jr. doesn't get the ball. but he is running down the floor and is usually beating every single person on a fast break opportunity if he doesn't have the ball in his hands. So to say that Wendell Carter Jr. does not hustle is also an invalid argument. And I have to say, for Daniel Gafford, while he does hustle, and I love his hustle, and I love Gafford, how much effort he puts on the defensive end. The thing is, though, is that if for a guy like Gafford, he is going to be playing at 110% consistently. And for him to play like that in the starting lineup is just not possible. And I think what people don't understand is that if you put Gafford in the starting lineup, you're not going to get the Daniel Gafford off the bench 30-plus minutes every single game in the starting lineup. He's going to wear out. He's going to get tired. He's going to get beat up on the defensive end if he continues to play like this in the starting lineup, playing 30-plus minutes per game. So Wendell Carter Jr., I think, has the ability to not just, kill himself every single time when he's going back up and down the floor. He has the ability to conserve his energy by being a very effective player on the block and also being an effective player in the defensive end while not exerting so much energy. So the argument that Daniel Gafford hustles so much more than Wendell is also, in my opinion, an invalid argument. Now I want to start talking about the defense and the differences in their skill sets, right? So with Wendell Carter Jr., Wendell averaged 11 points per game this season, 9 rebounds a game, and about 0.8 blocks per game, right? And those are like the three things that I'm really looking at with Wendell Carter Jr., or really just a center, or any center in the league. And Wendell Carter Jr. had 17 double-doubles this season, and a lot of them came early in the season. And I would argue, and people forget about this, that Wendell Carter Jr. was the second best player on this Bulls team from the beginning of the season until he got injured. Zach LaVine was by far the best, but then after that, Markkanen struggled mightily. Kobe White wasn't Kobe White yet. Satoransky was struggling in the Boylan offense. OPJ got injured, and Chris Dunn, isn't obviously that great of a player. So I think Wendell Carter Jr. was obviously the second best player on this Bulls team from the beginning of the season until he got injured. And the reason why I think that is because he had 17 double-doubles basically at the beginning of the season. And he was really, really effective for this Bulls team because he brought so much to the table. For Wendell Carter Jr., his offensive skill set includes being a pick-and-roll option. He can be a pick-and-pop option. He can post up. He can shoot inside the paint, and he can also shoot the mid-range. That is completely different from what Daniel Gafford brings to the table offensively. Daniel Gafford is strictly just a rim runner, right? And he is strictly just going to be a pick-and-roll option and a 6-and-in guy. He should only be shooting shots in the paint. What people don't understand, though, is that being one-dimensional, that's fine if you're going to come off the bench. Because Daniel Gafford brings that energy, and he can really be effective in the pick-and-roll situation off the bench if he's running that hard. But for him to be in the starting lineup and playing 30-plus minutes per game, just being a one-dimensional player, I don't think that's going to work in today's NBA game. So the other thing I want to talk about is the rebounding. Wendell Carter Jr. averaged 9 rebounds per game. Daniel Gafford, unfortunately, only averaged 2.5 rebounds per game. And you're probably thinking, well, Duncan, the minutes don't add up. Like, Gafford plays significantly less minutes. Like, that is true. He only averaged 14 minutes per game. But if we're going to look at the games, Daniel Gafford had only 4 games where he got 5+ rebounds. And he had 39 games of having 4 or less rebounds. So that negates the whole rebounding argument, in that Wendell Carter Jr. is by far the better rebounder than over Daniel Gafford. As you can see in these numbers, Carter Jr. has some really good rebounding games this season, even when he was in foul trouble. Other thing I keep hearing also is that Daniel Gafford is bigger. He's stronger. He's much taller than Wendell Carter Jr. Well, Daniel Gafford's 6'10". He's 230. Wendell Carter Jr. in a Basketball Reference is listed at 6'9" and 260. That difference, first of all, in height is not that significant. It's 1 inch. And Wendell Carter Jr. is by far heavier and stronger than Daniel Gafford, at least for right now. But to say that right now, to say that Daniel Gafford is stronger than Wendell Carter Jr., it's not true, especially when you look at the body metrics and also the rebounding differences. So those arguments of, Daniel Gafford stronger and much bigger is also invalid. But strictly talking about defense, I do think Daniel Gafford is the better shot blocker. He averaged 1.3 blocks per game this season, and we saw that Daniel Gafford can really be a rim protector. But what we didn't always see consistently is the fact that Daniel Gafford doesn't have the ability, like Wendell Carter Jr., to change shots consistently. A lot of times what people don't understand with a guy like Rudy Gobert, who has a lot of blocks show up in the box score, is that he changes shots a lot. And people don't see that because it doesn't show up in the box score. And he also really scares off defenses from getting into the paint because he's such a big presence, and that doesn't show up in the box score either. And I think Wendell Carter Jr. has done a significantly good job of changing shots. He may not block the shot, but he can significantly change shots in the paint. And I think Daniel Gafford is really just like a shot blocker, that if a guy has the edge on him inside the paint, that his goal is just to swat the shot away. But instead of doing that, he should probably just end up just trying to get big and change the shot, but he's so worried about blocking the shot instead of doing that. And that's the reason why I think Wendell is a better overall rim protector than Daniel Gafford. Now, the other thing too, the differences in their skill sets is that on the defensive end, we saw this season under Jim Boylan's stupid blitz defense that Wendell Carter Jr. was a very good defender in the pick and roll situations when he's doing the blitz defense, when he's doing the drop defense, and when he can also at times switch onto smaller guards and go out on the perimeter or guard them one-on-one. Daniel Gafford, while he did okay this season in the blitz defense under Boylan, it's not suited for him very well because Daniel Gafford doesn't have the speed and quickness to do the blitz defense like Wendell has, but he also cannot switch on the smaller guys, which Wendell Carter Jr. can. And to me, Daniel Gafford has to be in the pick and roll defense strictly just going to be a drop down guy, where he's going to be dropped down in the pick and roll coverage and have the guard push the ball handler into Daniel Gafford. That's how I think he's going to be most effective. But that itself, again, is one-dimensional on the defensive end. So he's a rim runner on the offensive end, but just a drop-down pick and roll cover and a swat shotter on the defensive end. That's not as versatile as a guy like Wendell Carter Jr., who can do so many different things on the defensive end, not just rim protect, and not just guard the pick and roll in one way, but he can guard the pick and roll in multiple ways, and he can guard perimeter players much better than Daniel Gafford. And Karnisovas and Mark Eversley have already talked about how they really value versatility. And Wendell Carter Jr. brings more versatility on the defensive end than over Daniel Gafford. And I'm going to take that over what Gafford brings to the table, which he does so well. But Wendell Carter Jr.'s versatility is so much more valuable, in my opinion. That's the reason why his defense is better than Gafford's defense. And last thing I want to bring up is this. We talked about Wendell Carter Jr.'s offensive game, and we talked about how Daniel Gafford is strictly just a rim runner, right? But with Wendell Carter Jr., I hope his three-point shot eventually comes, because at Duke, he was actually a pretty good three-point shooter, but we've seen the mid-range shot be there. Hopefully, under a new coach and under a new offense, Carter Jr. is going to be used more effectively, and that means more mid-range shots, more pick and pop actions, hopefully takes more three-point shots. But what we did not see at all under Boylan is Carter Jr.'s ability to post up. Daniel Gafford cannot post up at all, and he can't shoot outside the paint. He has never taken a three in college or in the NBA. So Gafford's offensive ability is unfortunately limited. Wendell Carter Jr. at Duke showed that he can basically shoot from anywhere on the court, and it was also a very good post-up option, especially in the high-low action. If the other big is outside on the three-point line, Carter Jr. is very effective down on the block. And I'm hoping we can start seeing that soon, because that will be a significant thing to the Bulls offense. And I keep saying this to a lot of people. The way that you win basketball games offensively is that you have multiple ways to score on the offensive end. It's not strictly just threes and layups like how Boylan has done this offense this season. That's the reason why this Bulls offense is so god-awful, is because they're only shooting threes and layups. No mid-range, no pick and roll, or not a lot of pick and roll, no post-up opportunities, and the fast break opportunities are limited. If the new coach comes in and they value the many ways you can score on the offensive end. And add the post-up game for Wendell Carter Jr. to succeed. Maybe not have Wendell Carter Jr. just be like only have him score in the post, but have him be a facilitator in the post like how Jokic is in Denver. That brings a whole new level of offense to this Bulls team. As if you throw the ball into the post, the defense cannot see the ball very clearly. It's behind the defense now. Instead of having the whole ISO ball at the top of the key, the entire defense can see the ball. So it's easier to react to it because you can see it consistently. What people don't value in today's game is the post up, because what posting up does, when you throw the ball down to the post, it's a form of ball penetration. And that's important in today's game, obviously, because it's a lot of, if you see all of today's NBA game, it's about a drive and kick. But instead of having the guard drive down there, what if you had the big man down there holding the ball, and he can do a couple of things with that ball, whether that's score in the post or facilitate. What I believe in Wendell Carter Jr. to be able to have the ball down on the block, whether it's a low post or high post, and have him be a facilitator, like kind of like how Joakim Noah was when he was with the Bulls in his prime. And then add on top of that a more offensively versatile player in Wendell Carter Jr. that he can shoot the mid-range more consistently, and he has a better post-up game than Noah. So I think with Wendell, you have so much more options offensively with him on the court, and that's the reason why I value him so much more than Daniel Gafford. And I hope people start realizing that Wendell Carter Jr. has so much in his skill set that has just not been tapped into because he's under Jim Boylen. Once we get a new coach, which it looks like it's going to happen, I hope the new coach values what Wendell Carter Jr. brings to the court, because we've seen what a guy like Jokic can bring to the court. Now, don't take away Jokic's three-point shot and put in a bigger guy who's a better defender on this Bulls team. I think that can bring a whole new level of offense to this Bulls team, and something that will help push this Bulls team from being in rebuilding mode to now start getting into the playoff type mode. And I'm hoping people start realizing that Wendell Carter Jr. does so much for this Bulls team. Last thing I want to show you is, while the Bulls had a really iffy defensive season, a lot of people say it was pretty good because the Bulls defense ranked 14th overall. But people like me have talked about how like the Bulls defense from the beginning of the season to the end of November was god awful. It was bottom 5, especially in the fourth quarter. It was ranked 28th. But then in the month of December, the Bulls defense was like actually really, really good. It was top 5 in the league. However, we have to understand that the Bulls played some of the worst offensive teams in the month of December, including like the Charlotte Hornets, the Atlanta Hawks, the Washington Wizards, etc. But I still don't want to take away how good of a defensive month that was. And the reason for that was because Wendell Carter Jr. was playing so well defensively that season. As you can see in the month of December, he had a 100.7 defensive rating, and that's really, really good. Now, I will say though, the entire Bulls team basically had a good defensive rating that month, including Daniel Gafford, who had a 99.2 defensive rating, but he only averaged 12.8 minutes per game that month. So that, he was basically on par with Wendell for that month. But Wendell brought so much more because he can do what I talked about earlier in having multiple ways to guard the pick and roll, and he's a much better rim protector than Daniel Gafford. But that's going to wrap up this video, because I think I showed enough of why Wendell Carter Jr. is much better than Daniel Gafford. And the people that keep saying that Daniel Gafford did all this, and this better than Wendell, you need to go back and watch the games. Because while Wendell, he does so much, it doesn't always show up in the box score. So you have to be watching the games to understand just how good Wendell Carter Jr. Was before he got injured this season, and why he's so much better than Daniel Gafford. But that's going to wrap it up for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked the video, make sure you hit that like button. Also, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I'm making new videos every week. And also comment down below on who you think the Bulls should keep for the center of the future, Wendell Carter Jr. or Daniel Gafford.